Like I said, we're in a series, New Rules for Love, Sex, and Dating. I'm going to kind of catch you up if you're brand new around here or if you're one of our amazing volunteers that are watching this online. We started out the series with this, that God or Jesus is the vine and we are the branches. We are to plug into the branches. If the branches are not plugged into the vine, it dies. Right? And we have a lot of thoughts and opinions in our lives that we sometimes don't know if they're in Jesus. Like, right, my opinion on this group of people or the way I view love, sex, and dating. Are they culture's way of doing life or are they Jesus principles in my life? The only way to know that is to plug into Jesus and okay, Jesus, it matters what you think in my life. And here's why it matters. If you're not a follower of Jesus, here's why it matters. Is because Jesus created you. He knows exactly how you function. We think we know that, right? If you've got kids, you catch on real fast that your kids think, it's like a magical age, they're about 3. They think they know more than you, and they know what's best for them, right? I want to play in the street, though. But dad or mom says, don't play in the street. Where do they want to be? The street. Because they think, well, no, that's where I want to be. That's good for me. But anybody with any wisdom to them goes, that's not safe. Any adult in here would go, yeah, that's not safe. But a child would go, I want to play there. It doesn't seem harmful to me. And so there are topics and things in our lives that we have a strong opinion on, but that doesn't mean that it's coming from Jesus. We want you to have Jesus thoughts because Jesus knows what's best for you. He's not trying to be a dictator or a control freak or any of those things. He's trying to say, hey, I know how you best function. I want to help you out. We find that information through the Bible, which some of you are like, oh yeah, I went to a church and it was a big Bible. My parents had a Bible and they just sat on a table and it got dusty. And I one time went and set a cup of water on it and they freaked out because you don't put anything on top of your Bible. And that's your concept of the Bible. My concept of the Bible is that it's the owner's manual for my life. Like, man, I got all kinds of messes in my life. I got all kinds of issues in relationships. And the way I think, the way my mind processes things, I've got issues. And when I read what Jesus has to say on said topics, I start realizing, I've not been plugged into the vine. I've not been plugged in getting the knowledge from Jesus on this topic. And all of a sudden my life changes because it's like I plug in, and because I'm plugged into the right source, that branch now grows. If you've got things in your life that you're just like, it's always a dead end. Maybe you're in a vicious cycle of dating. You're like, man, what's the problem? I'm going to be really honest, and this might make you hate me. You're the problem. You keep going into the dates, right? You travel with you. And so we talked about in the first week, there are no relationship problems. It's single people problems. Immediately we want to rear up and go, no way, I got marriage problems, I got dating problems. No, you got single people problems that you didn't deal with when you were single. And what we thought was, it's the myth inside our culture, well, when I find the right person, everything will be all right. My debt will go away, or my anger problem will go away. But you know what happens when we get into relationships is the anger problem now, because I wouldn't be angry if I wasn't with him or her. They make me angry. And then you go to the next one, it's like, man, why does this person make me angry? Because you travel with you. That was what we learned in the first week. There's no relationship problems, it's single people problems. Then last week, we talked about this, what's in your box. We talked about, and I've heard a lot of great conversations of couples and people that are in dating relationships asking the questions, what are your future hopes, dreams, and desires? Because we always carry around a box. All of us, we travel with the box. And here's the deal. We're all just looking for somebody to give our box to. Like, okay, my hopes and dreams and desires, make them come reality. I think you can make this better. I think, here you go, here's my box. Take my box from me. And it's never a conversation of like, I use this as, how are we going to travel? Like, do you want to travel a bunch? And somebody might go, I want to travel the world. The other person, United States is big enough. We can just stay here and travel. And it's the travel plan. Some of you, you are dating a guy, or you're going to date a guy that wants to be Batman. And you're going to be like, wait, what? You want to be like he's a thing? Like, and they're going to run around in a costume. And if you don't know that's their hopes, you're going to get really alarmed when you have, like, your first child, and they're like, I'm busting out my Batman costume because I can't wait for them to see that I'm Batman. And you'd be like, freaking you out, because it'd be like, you didn't have a conversation. How about this? A lot of you, you want a sports car. You're like, man, one day I want to own a sports car. I want, yeah. Like even like I have 8 kids, and like I was like, I would love one day, like honestly, to own a Dodge Viper. My mom used to work for a dealership, and it was always like she would bring one home, and I'd be like, man, the thing's amazing, just the way the hood opens. I would love one. And like Holly and I, we've been married for 18 years, and we've had the conversation. One day we're gonna get it, and we had to buy a new car recently because we have 8 children, and what vehicle can. You know what her desires and hopes were? She wanted a bus. This is what was in her box, okay? This is not in my box, okay? And so she came, no, make it so. Find me a bus, okay? If you look out there, it's silver, okay? It's the biggest vehicle out there, okay? What my baby wants, my baby gets, okay? It's just, but that was her. I mean, we had conversations. Like, she was like, but I want this. And I was like, no, we can cram them in here, I think. There's some trunk space. Like, imagine how fast we could get there. This is what we'll do. Holly, I will drive them one at a time there. It'll be so much fun. I will enjoy my ride. We'll go really fast. It's going to be a good time. She was like, just shaking her head like, you are ridiculous. Okay, so what happens in life is that we don't have the conversations of where are we going to live. I showed this last week. There are people out there that do want to live in a barn. I feel like I live in a barn with 8 children and some animals, but I don't. I live in a house. But some people my hopes are I can take a barn and remodel it into a house. It's a thing. But if you don't know that, what happens is that down in the relationship, all of a sudden, after about 6 months, the real version of the person shows up. If you're in a dating relationship, you're like, who is this person? Did you know this? If you're like, just a little bit of hindsight for all those young people that are like in the dating sea of just craziness, and maybe it's more like just poop. But it's like you're in the dating scene, right? You're like, it's just junk, it's nasty. Here's the reality if you start dating someone that you just first met. Do you know you don't really get to, and this is not my opinion, this is psychologists say, it takes 6 months for you to get to meet the real person. 6 months. You know why? Because after 6 months, the dude stops. He's like, I'm over deodorant. Okay, I don't want to wear that anymore. That's too much work. I don't want to shower every time we're going to go on a date. I'm going to shower. Girls stop wearing makeup. Like, seriously, there should be a warning about that. Like, hey, I'm going to show up with no makeup on. Because when that person shows up with no makeup, you're like, whoa, what just happened here? I remember, man, my wife and I, okay, we got married. It was like, the ceremony happens. We drive to the hotel. We do what married couples do. You see, like, we're not talking about sex. I'm talking about anything. Okay, well, we wait. I just remember we go to bed. We wake up, and in my mind, Hollywood had ruined me. Like, I thought when you woke up, the next morning, it's like everybody's like perfect. Makeup's good. Nobody's hair looks like there's a nest in there. Everybody's breath smells minty fresh. But I remember rolling over, and Holly came to give me a kiss. I was like, whoa, what is that? What did you eat last night? Oh, my goodness. It was not romantic at all. It was like, wow. Wow, and then she kindly is like, oh, is that how this is going to go? I was like, well, you got to backtrack a little bit. You're just like, whoa, what? It was like, what happened to your face? It melted when we went to sleep. What just happened to you? I just feel like there should be kind of some warning in that point. But 6 months into a relationship, all those things shift. Girls stop wearing their hair all nice and doing the twisty thing. They just put it up in this thing on top of their head. I call it a man bun. I don't know what women call it when I put my hair up, but you'd think we put this thing together up there, and it's cute. It's a bun. It's a bun. And I feel like it's not a bun, though. I think Holly calls it a foof. Holly calls it a foof. I don't know. Hey, I'm not into I just know, okay? She puts it a foof, and it's like, okay. It just, 6 months into it, you're just like, where is the person I met? And this goes both ways. Not just girls thing. 6 months, you get the real person. All of a sudden, it's like, wait, hold on. You don't like eating Chinese? And they're like, no, I just ate Chinese because I was trying to make an impression on you. And all of a sudden, in 6 months, you start finding out the real person. And all of a sudden, you're like, wow, I just wasted 6 months. Wouldn't it be better if at the up front, you just came and said, hey, here's my future hopes and dreams. These are my desires. Do they match yours? Because, man, it gets really tough when you meet someone that has way different hopes, dreams, and desires than you, and you're like, how does this work? And some of you realize, wow, that's my marriage. I'm in this relationship. We never had that conversation, and their hopes and dreams and desires are way different than mine. And we talked about last week, well, it's a submission mission, right? I'm trying to out-submit the other person. It's a race to be second. It's a race to be second, which is totally in the face of Western culture. Wait, be second. Like we hear that and it's like, wow, that just sounds stupid. Like I'm told to win at all costs. Well, inside relationships, when I win, we loses. When I win inside a relationship, the relationship loses. It's got to be we win. And then we talked about last week, well, then it sounds a lot like, well, it's a compromise. We just compromise a lot of things. And you talked to a lot of people that have been in relationships. Yeah, it's a lot of compromising. That sounds miserable. That sounds like a contract. Think about it. All the athletes that are in a contract-based deal with their teams, what are they doing? They're negotiating. They're compromising. I'll take less here for more over here. And if you get a weekend with the kids, I want a weekend away from the kids. And you just are trading off. Well, you got to go with your friends. I want to go with my friends. You do. And all of a sudden, it's this, instead of a unit moving together, figuring out how do I help each other, it just becomes this contract. And that's not what it's about. It literally is. All happy couples know this. That, and honestly, if this is the only thing you take away from today, brilliant. Happy couples decide they owe each other everything, but are owed nothing in return. I'm going to read that again, because that's pretty heavy. Happy couples decide they owe each other everything, but are owed nothing in return. That's I am racing to the back of the line thought. Whatever you want trumps whatever I want. It's a submission competition. I know some of you are like, this is my problem. This is so backwards, Scott. But you know what? This is like the healthiest thing for you inside a relationship and healthy for you. Now, I know we've created a lot of tension this week because you're like, okay, but I still have my desires and my hopes and my aspirations in life. Man, you sit down with me for any amount of time and you'll catch on. I'm going to pause really quick because I can hear music and I want to make sure it's not getting on the video for our volunteers. So if we can make sure that's not happening. Sorry about that. I have ADD, and I can hear it back here, and it's like making me want to bob my head. Back into what we were saying, is that if you sit down with me for any amount of time, I'm a driven guy. I like goals. I like big goals. I like goals where somebody tells me, you can't do that. I'm like, yeah, this is so good. Because I know who my Father is. I'm not talking about my earthly father. I'm talking about God. And when I read the owner's manual says that with God, all things are possible. When somebody tells me I can't do something, it's like, well, then watch Jesus show up and show off. It's going to be a great story. Because I know me. I'm not the most talented. I'm not the most creative. I'm not the fastest. There's a lot of things I'm not. But frankly, I don't care. Because I want Jesus to shine. I want when somebody watches the video of my life, my goal is that Jesus would outshine anything I've ever done. So let me maybe paint a picture inside relationships, and this is all relationships. It does probably stand out more in a romantic relationship, but the intangibles to a relationship is that we all want to be respected. Right? Come on, no one's going to argue with that. When I enter into a relationship, I would like to be respected. I don't want to be disrespected. We want to be desired. I want my wife to look at my runner's body and go, dang, you put in the work today. Hey, kids, so you know it works. Okay, next week's topic. But I know how, man, she wants me to look at her the same way. Not just walk by and go, oh, yeah, we've been married 18 years. It's old habit now. No, I know she wants me to look across the room and go, man, I can't believe I got to marry you. Right? That's everybody thing. So if I want her to look at me like that, should I not return the favor? Should I not continually keep myself in a spot where I look at my wife and think, I get to marry, I'd marry her all over again. Like I look at her and it's like, man, I want her not in a sexual, I just want her sometimes that way, but I want her to be, I want my best friend in my life. I want to be admired, don't you? We want to be cherished, attracted to. Inside a relationship, we want to be able to be attracted to. We want to be defended. Have you ever been in those conversations with your boss and it didn't go very well at work and you come home and tell the story about your boss being a jerk and your spouse goes, well, it sounds like it's your fault, and you get more mad because you're like, all I wanted you to do is be on my side, okay? I just want you to defend me for a little bit, okay? Don't jump on their bandwagon and go, that's what we've been talking about. That's what we've been fighting about lately, is what they're talking about. No, we want somebody to come to our defense inside relationships. We want to be trusted. We want to be able to trust the other person. Right? These are real things we're looking for in relationships. We want to be protected. We want our hearts to be protected. We want the other person to make wise decisions that would protect the relationship in our heart. And not go, well, that couple can get away with it, so I think we should be able to. It doesn't matter what the other couple's doing. It's what keeps the trust inside your relationship. It matters. There are different ways that Holly and I interact than other couples do because we know what communicates trust to the other one and what destroys trust. And I want to build trust with my wife. This marriage that we have for 18 years isn't something we're trying out. We want to be married way past our children. We want to prepare for the future, but you got to do that today so you're ready when your kids are moved out and when you are old and we're wrinkly. Side note on the wrinkly thing, Holly got some new lotion and she's like, you got to try this out. It'll help your wrinkles. I was like, I'm wrinkly? She's like, yeah, you got some crow's feet. I was like, that's because I like the sun. She's like, but you need this like 5-step process. I was like, I am not doing that. I am not 5 steps of lotion. I go, Father Time, he's going to do his thing, okay? It's all right. But she's got, no, you got to prime your skin. I'm like, this is too much. And then I was like, requires me to do this. Okay. If it makes me more attractive to her, 5 lotions, I guess, I don't know. I'll just keep growing the beard so I don't have to do as much. But she started me on the process. You'll have to see how it works later. I don't know. I didn't really know I was that wrinkly. I was like, dang, woman. Thought you loved me. I thought I could trust you. No, but these intangibles that I read, right? These are not just Holly's and mine, right? These are things that everybody's after. We want these things, but you know what? We don't talk about these things very much. It is genuinely what we all want out of a relationship, but we hop in and out of relationships so fast, forgetting any of those things until we've noticed that we don't have those things. And then it's like, I want out. When this should be the first things that you're looking at inside your relationship. So, if you're in a dating relationship, I would take this and I would go rewatch this because you probably didn't write it down and look at it. Man, am I respected? Do I respect that person? Do I desire that person? Do they desire me? And ask these things, and if you start going, yes, no, boy, you better have some deep conversations. If you're dating, you better go, hey, this is what's in my box. This is how I plan to do my time. I like to work out a lot. The other person might look at you and go, I don't want to work out at all. The only workout I want to do is lift my finger on an app and push down and watch a TV show or play video games. You're like, wait, hold on. That's how you want to spend your time? I don't spend my time like that. And all of a sudden you can sort out like, okay, are we meant for each other? See, just because you talk about the box, maybe some of you went home, you talked about your hopes, desires, and things for the future. And some of you are like, oh, wow, I learned a lot. I learned that now there's all this tension that what they want, I actually don't want. And here's what you're going to struggle with. You're going to go, okay, if they don't have the same wants I have, if they don't have the same desires I have, what does that mean? I'm out? No, you're married. You're in. Okay, you're in. Now what do you do? And that's what I want to talk about today. You're in a relationship and you're in it and it doesn't line up anymore. What do you do? Because culture says, well, just leave. And I already said it. If you leave, you take you with you. And you'll get into another relationship and you'll realize, wow, we have similar problems. It's a me thing, not a we thing. I got to deal with me. If you got things going on in any relationships, not just a romantic relationship and a parenting relationship, and they all kind of start looking similar, that's a you thing. And I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm just trying to point you to where you need to be working on some things. None of us are perfect. Myself included, okay? Here's a great thing about my life is I got 8 kids that are watching me. You can interview at any point, and they'll tell you I'm just messy. They're going to tell you that the same guy that stands up here is the same guy that is in the house. I've got my wife who you can ask her. She's very honest. She would say, yep, that's the same guy. I don't have it together. So when I say this and I prepare this, I'm speaking to me. People don't rush into new relationships or into a relationship because they're eager to give their lives to someone. They're coming into, like when I say give their lives, to serve and to be second. They're coming into a relationship. I think they can help me with my box. And so I want to jump into a conversation that Peter's having in the Bible, and he titles his book Peter. And if a little bit of context who Peter is, Peter's like the guy that puts his foot in his mouth a bunch. Okay, some would say he's an idiot, but I think the dude is probably the most like. If I'm picking a disciple, I'm probably the most like Peter, like quick to just jump and then, oh crap, Jesus help me. I have jumped or I have fallen and I can't get, I say things and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have said those things. And if Jesus doesn't tell me I shouldn't say things, Holly will go like, that wasn't loving at all what you just said to that individual. We had some 20-somethings over the other night and it might have been an intervention for me. They just said something along the lines that I'm not gentle. I'm not, what was the term? Soft. Well, that's because I work out a lot, It's just, I don't think they're saying, I was like, but then they're like, but that's why you have Holly. They were quick to say that. That's why you have Holly. And then Holly's, well, so I'm soft? And it's like this, anyways, they were telling me that I am not soft. I'm still trying to process that, if that's a good thing or a bad thing. They quickly came and said, no, it's good. Just when we want soft, we don't come to you. I'm like, all right, great. This is a good conversation. So Peter, the idiot of the disciples, and I'm not being harsh, but he just tended to jump when he shouldn't have. And he denies Jesus at one point. Like 3 times he's like, no, I don't know who Jesus is. When Jesus is going and being arrested, he's like, no, I don't even know him. A little girl comes to him and says, hey, aren't you the guy that hung out with Jesus? And he's like, no, not me. And he does that 3 other times, and all of a sudden, you got to feel pretty guilty that the man that you said you loved so much, and you're denying, I don't even know him, feeling really guilty. And then all of a sudden, life shifts drastically for Peter when Jesus comes back to life, dies on the cross, 3 days later, rises from the dead, and shows himself to Peter. And I think that moment with Jesus and Peter was pretty, I'm pretty sure the conversation went, hey, you don't have to be, stop being guilty. Stop feeling guilty. It's okay. My grace is sufficient. And maybe some of you need to hear that today, that Jesus' grace is sufficient. Yes, Jesus says perfection is the goal. Jesus does say that. And some people got a big problem with that. Like, I can't be perfect. Jesus, tell me to do something I can't do. That's the point. You can't do it. You need Jesus. Whatever your shortcomings of perfection is, Jesus makes up the difference. That's the beauty of being in a relationship with Jesus. He says, I'm going to ask you to do something you can't do, but I'm going to come along and help you get there. To me, that's amazing. That's why I'm in a relationship with Jesus, because he's like, hey, get better. And he doesn't just fold his arms and say, all right, now do it. He's like, no, I'm in it with you. I'm in it with you. I'm going to make up the difference. My grace is sufficient. You know what happens is as we do a relationship with Jesus, wherever we jump in our lives with Jesus, you know what happens is in that journey of becoming more like Jesus, you know what? We're inching our way to perfection. But here's the truth. We'll never really get there. Jesus will always make up the difference. That's the beauty of Jesus. So why wouldn't you want to be in a relationship with somebody that finishes you off, completes you? And he'll never go in. He doesn't change. To me, that's a game changer. And here Jesus has this conversation with Peter saying, Peter, I told you to be perfect, but I forgive you. It's okay, man. Stop beating yourself up. Stop beating yourself up that you haven't done relationships right. Stop doing that. That is no good for you. That destroys you from the inside out. Stop it. You're here today to hear this conversation that you might make changes in your relationships so the next time you go on a date, you're going to do it different. The next time won't be the same. If you're inside of marriage, you're not going to go, the next one's going to be different. You're going to fix the one you're in, and you're going to start fixing you first. The next one's not an option. And so Peter, I just tell you that backstory. So when you read these words from Peter, Peter walked around with Jesus, wrote things down. John, one of the disciples, he writes down a sentence in there that we all just read past. He goes, listen, I wrote down a bunch of stuff, but Jesus said so much more that he would fill all the books in the world. I can't write it all down. Jesus said heaps of things when he was alive. And men and women were trying to write it all down, and then they all were putting it together so that we could learn from it. And Peter comes along and goes, okay, I'm going to try to teach you something about relationships today. And not just intimate relationships, okay? Not just romantic all relationships. He's going to take and say, listen, this is what Jesus taught me when he walked this earth. So Peter chapter 5, verse 5. Peter says, all of you, that's everybody, middle schoolers, kids in there, babies, all of us. It says, all of you, clothe yourself with humility towards one another. Clothe yourself. When we don't use that term very much, clothe yourself is put on. I know, for all those hunters out there, I'm about to clash my camouflages. Ease up on me, okay? It's an illustration. Clothe yourself. Put on humility. It's intentionality. It's rainy today, get my rain gear, right? I saw the weather, I need my rain gear. I'm going to go into a hostile environment, I need to be humble. I'm going to put on humility today. Peter, trying to take what Jesus taught about what does love require us to do inside romantic relationships and people stuff, is to clothe yourself in humility. And immediately there's pushback on that. Wait, that means I'm second place. I'm not first. I'm not the best. What is this? Western culture says don't do that. Squash somebody. When you see weakness, go after them. Corporate world, right? If you can crush somebody to get a promotion, then crush them. When Jesus was like, no, I would say, let them have the promotion. Lift them up. Say, no, you should promote them and not me. Boy, wow, what? Clothe yourself. Put on humility towards one another. Humility, okay, you're like, okay, we don't use that word much in our culture. What does that mean? Humility means to go small. Go to the back of the line. Go others first. That's what humility is. And immediately you're like, but my box. If the person in a relationship gets to pick what we do all the time, what about my box? And there lies the tension, right? In a healthy relationship, the other person is worried about your box and you're worried about their box. But what if you're in that relationship where you're all about their box and they're not about your box? And you're like, I'm trying to go small. I'm trying to be the back of the line, but what do I do? Here's the deal. In every relationship transaction that you have, be it inside marriage, be with your parents, be with the teacher, whoever you have a relationship with, and there's a transaction going to happen, you need to ask this question. What would a humble person do? And then do it. Don't just think it. Being humble is not thinking. Being humble is your actions. I'm humble. A lot of people go, I'm humble. No, you think humble thoughts. You don't act humble. Humility is action-based. We a lot of times grade ourselves on what we think and not what we do. Start having enough wisdom to look at what you're doing and go, I'm not really behaving with humility. Ask yourself, what does a humble person do? And then do it. So Peter continues on in this conversation. He goes, okay, so clothe yourself with humility because here it is. God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble. Opposes the proud. You're like immediately, there's my rub. God just waiting to zap me with a bowl of lightning. If you get out of line, that's what you picture God doing. And that is so far from the truth. That's not what we're reading. But opposing is a bit like, okay, I'm going to keep my distance a little bit. You seem to got it sorted out. Well, a lot of times when we behave in a non-humble manner, we find ourselves falling off the cliff, finding ourselves in a danger zone, quoting a song from Top Gun. All the young people have no idea. All those that, I know how old you are. Okay. But we fall into the danger zone, and guess what we want to do all of a sudden? We're like, Jesus, take the wheel. Help me out. And Jesus is like, I'm going to because my grace is new every morning. But my goodness, would you act humble? Because I keep a distance, not like a turn my back on, but it's like, okay, there's a distance now between us because you're acting like you got it. Humility is like, okay, I'm going to put myself second because I know Jesus has got it. Humility is going, I'm going to serve other people because I know at some point Jesus is going to, because what does it say? But God shows his favor to the humble. It's this. I wrote it like this in my notes. When we humble ourselves, it is an invitation for God to give you the strength, the endurance, the power you need to maintain and to do the right thing. Humility is an invitation for God to show up and show off in your life. Who doesn't want that? I want Jesus to show up and show off in my life, in my relationships, in my health, in all these things. So why would I not want to continue to position myself inside relationships where God can bless that relationship when he so chooses? Listen to that. When he so chooses, not when you want it. All right, God, anytime now. Woo! Show up. This thing's in fire, Jesus. I need you right now. No. This is, he will show up when it is the right time. See, he goes on, Peter, trying to break this down to all of us. Humble yourselves, clothe yourself, put it on, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time. In due time. Not your time, in his time. But what happens is we might act initially with humility and in being humble, and then what happens is it seems too long. Our timeline is way shorter than God. Like, he ain't showing up. I'm going to take matters in my own hand. I'm going to tell this person off now. I'm going to tell them what I really think of them. I'm going to out on this relationship. And all of a sudden, go the opposite of humility. And all of a sudden, we make a mess of it. And again, it's that, oh, Jesus, it's a mess. Help me again. See, when we humble ourselves, we are choosing to say, I'm after Jesus' kingdom, not my kingdom. Boy, I want that. And then in case you miss it all, you're like, okay, this is all churchy stuff. Scott, what the heck are you saying? I didn't get the clothing thing. You lost me when the camouflage, I tried to zip it up so you can see it. The clashing of the two camouflage, you lost me. What in the world are you saying? Here's what Peter says. He comes back at it going, okay, maybe this is all too wordy and I got this from Jesus and I'm not doing a good job here in writing it. So he comes back and says, look, cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. Cast all of it, not some of it, not just a little bit, all of it. If the box thing is really stressing you out, then you got to cast your anxiety on Jesus. Get it on him. Throw it away from you. If you've ever gone fishing, right? You cast away from the boat if that's the kind of fishing you're doing. If you watched on our vlogs on YouTube last week, you saw that we took all of our children fishing. That was 8 kids and 2 adults, 10 people in a small boat fishing. You do not cast, okay? With that amount of kids, you just jig, but just drop it over the boat and then just hope fish swim to you, or it's just a hot mess, okay? Just parenting some facts for you there, okay? But when you cast away, right? If you're going after like northerns, right? Cast into the weeds or some bass. Cast away. Jesus said, cast it away from you. Like I watch my boys when they go fishing with me. It's like they're trying to hit a grand slam every time. They're like, get it away from me. You know what I mean? They're like trying to launch it across the lake. And I'm trying to teach them, listen. You don't have to like bat like you're going to grand slam this thing. Just flick it a little bit, and it'll go a lot further than you just chucking it. Because I know what's going to happen, and it has happened several times. They go to chuck, and they let go. And all of a sudden, lure, the pole, going across the lake. You know how many times we had to go and pick up a rod or two? My own, too, occasionally. More than you can imagine, okay? It's a thing. But cast it away. Are you doing that? Are you casting your anxieties to Jesus? Or are you carrying them? You got them all. Are you casting? If I'm being honest, most of the time I'm not casting. Cast your anxieties on him. This is an invite to us to unload on God. Maybe this. Maybe you grew up and people talk about, you should be praying. And we think these prayers are like, close your eyes and it's like, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord. I don't know the rest, but you get it, right? There's nothing wrong with those prayers. But this is not what Jesus is talking about here. This is what Peter talked about, what Jesus talked to him about. It's like, cast your cares. It sounds pretty violent. It sounds like there's a lot of emotion into it, a lot of passion. I'm going to give you an illustration here from David, because when he talks about cast your anxiety on him, I think Peter steals this from King David in the Psalms. Psalms is the journal entries of King David, the second king of Israel. David is where God said, David is a man after my own heart. He'll do everything I want him to do. That said it about David, and so I really like to learn from David as Kristen's going to play some music for us here, as we're going to make a shift here in a second. So David writes in his journal, hey, this is where I'm feeling right now here, Jesus. Somebody wronged me. You're going to catch it. You're going to catch it real quick here that he's been wronged. And listen to the prayer that he prays or he writes down, okay? You can tell Peter got this from Psalms 55:12. These are David's words. If an enemy were insulting me, I could endure it. If a foe were rising against me, I could hide. But it's you, a man like myself, my companion, my close friend, with whom I once enjoyed sweet fellowship at the house of God, as we walked about among the worshipers. David's right, my friend. I could handle it if it was an enemy backstabbing me, saying that stuff about me. I could handle it if it was somebody at work, but it's my wife. It's my husband. It's my kids. It's my best friend won't return. I can't handle it. We were friends. He goes on. Let death take my enemies by surprise. Let them go down alive to the realm of the dead, for evil finds lodging among them. That sounds like really cool, but you know what, like real translation, if we were to word for word put it from the Greek, this is what David just said, to hell with them. Sounds pretty violent, pretty angry. He's casting some stuff. He's talking to God saying, to hell with that person. That's pretty bold. I got to say, I like it the way we read it earlier, but to give you the amount of power these words are, this is where David's at. David writes, every evening, morning, and noon, I cry out in distress, and he hears my voice. David's not whispering. He's letting us know. I mean, he's just writing in his journal, so he doesn't know. We're going to be reading this a couple years ago. He goes, evening, morning, and noon, 3 times a day. I'm not just like driving to work, watching some sheep. In his case, in our case, taking a shower. Jesus, my anxiety levels are just high right now. Would you just take the wheel, Jesus? Come on, that's Western culture Jesus stuff. While I'm going to Jesus, help, heal, do this, do that. David's going, no. I pause everything 3 times a day, and I'm crying out, God, show up. Do something. He's casting his cares. You got anxiety, you got relationship stuff, you got health concerns. Are you honestly casting your anxiety? Or are you just doing these little prayers going, help? Be great, Jesus, if you helped us. No, stop what you're doing. And humble yourself and do what David's doing. Every day, morning, noon, and night. Crying out. He goes on, he rescues me unharmed from the battle, from the battle waged against me, even though many oppose me. God, who is enthroned from old, who does not change, he will hear them and humble them, because they have no fear of God. My companion attacks his friends. He violates his covenant. His talk is smooth as butter, yet war is in his heart. His words are more smooth than oil, yet they are drawn swords. Sounds, right? Are you getting the picture? And then David writes in his journal, cast your cares on the Lord, and he will sustain you. He will never let the righteous be shaken. Those that humble themselves, he will never let them be shaken. But you, God, will bring down the wicked into the pit of decay. Let's go back to what Peter says, and the band's gonna come up here. As the band, you want to make your way up here. 1 Peter chapter 5, Verse 7. We read this part, right? Cast all your anxiety on him. Why? Because he cares. Because he cares. That's why. You matter. You're a big deal. It matters. You matter. So what we're going to do is we're going to do Good Grace. It's a great song. If you're familiar with it, you're going to love it. If you're not familiar, you're going to love it. This is going to be your anthem. It's okay. It's going to be good. But my hopes is over the next few moments is that you cast your anxiety. This is your moment. Even if you're brand new to Jesus thing, you're like, I've not heard. That's all right. Man, if you heard something today, you're like, I got to apply it. Jesus' principles work. They're amazing things. You got anxiety about your relationship? Cast it. You got health anxiety? Cast it. You got concerns about your finance? Cast it. But you know what? When you do this, may your posture match your humility. You really going to get after this? Man, I challenge you this week. Yeah, I used a big word there, challenge. Who am I to challenge you? I'm nobody. Kneel down 3 times a day and say, I am humbling myself, God, before you. I cannot make it. I'm in a relationship, they won't take my box, and all I do is serve them. Maybe it's going to be screaming about that. You're going to cast it. Maybe in the next few moments, we're going to sing a song, and you're the right posture in this. You might see people lift their hands in the air. You know what that is? It's signifying of the heart. Maybe you've seen that in church. And you're like, why do people put their hands in the air? That's so weird. Because it's a humbling act of what I see my kids do. All 8 of them. I've never trained them to do it, but it's one of the things I will miss as my kids grow up. Is they walk right over to me. And they might have just fallen. Somebody might have said something that hurt them. You know what they do? They come right to my side. They look up to me. We meet eye to eye. And they do this. They just put their hands in there. And I know exactly what they need. They need Dad to come, pick them up, and say, it's okay. You're safe. And maybe over the next few songs, that's the humility part for you. You've never done it. You're just like, okay, I don't know about this Jesus thing, but I'm desperate. I'm going to try everything. And maybe you're going to start like this. Let's be honest. You're going to start here, right? You're going to start like this. The guys. The women, yeah, the guys. Anybody looking? But, God, I'm casting it to you, and I need you to pick me up. And I'm not saying you're going to walk out of here and life's going to be perfect. But in due time, when he sees fit, Jesus will show up and show off. And this is not prosperity. I just know it. I can't tell you how he's going to show up. I can't say you're going to walk out and be healed or open up an envelope tomorrow and there's going to be money. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just telling you what I just read. Cast your cares. Throw them on him. And if you're like, I can't do that. That's so disrespectful. Legend and I were talking this morning. I have permission. I asked, he's a middle schooler here. And I shared a lot of his stories. Like, you all right with me sharing the stories? And he's like, yeah. I mean, people stare at me, but I'm okay. This is a couple months ago. He did something that we were just talking about it. I'm like, do you remember what you got in trouble for? He's like, no. I go, do you remember this moment where you came in the office and he was emotional. He was angry, but with emotions, okay? And he comes in and he goes, Dad, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't know why I do that. Oh, I don't want to. And he's getting, like, yelling at me. Like if somebody walked in there and watched him yelling at me, they would be like, that dad is getting walked all over by his child. And I could have said, son, that's disrespectful to me. You don't talk to me like that. Or I let him get it off his chest. Because him getting it off his chest, and it was a safe spot with me, prevented him from going to his brothers and sisters and taking it out on them. You know why Jesus says, cast your cares and anxiety on me? Is because it's a safe spot. Because by the time you get to your husband, it's been dialed down a notch or 2, maybe 5. or your wife, it's been dialed down a notch because you casted your cares onto, you're not as hot now, you're not as heated. God's not going to be offended. And we'll go, I got you. You're in a safe spot.